And we're now joined by another member of the 2012-2013 Clark Cup Championship team for Dubuque, a Saint for life, and current Edmonton Oiler, Matt Benning. And Matt, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're reminiscing about the 12-13 championship team, but I have to start with the fact that the NHL just received some really good news in the fact that 24 teams will be coming back to do some sort of playoff format, and the Edmonton Oilers are a 5 seed in this new format. When you got word from the higher-ups that this was going to happen, hockey would eventually be coming back, what was the feeling like? I'm sure there were a lot of texts going back and forth. Just how are those emotions?
Yeah, I mean, the last few months has been a lot of uncertainties, and I think now that we know that that if we do return, I mean, I think there's still a lot of things that need to go right in order for us to return to actually play. But I mean, we know the format now, so I expect guys to start making their way back. And I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know if we are going to play or not. But when we do get the green light, we want to be ready. And I think most of the players are on somewhat of a similar page. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I think there's a Stanley Cup to be won. It's playoff time. I think everybody knows how that is. So I mean, for us, we're in the mix. I think all of us now are just doing the things that we need to do to stay ready. And when we get back to Edmonton to start training and that sort of thing, I think there'll be an exciting buzz in the locker room and getting guys kind of mindset into that playoff mode.
Well, getting into gearing up for hockey, we're looking forward to watching a lot of Fighting Saints alum hopefully playing soon. But speaking of some great Fighting Saints alum, that's what we're talking about this entire week. It's the 12-13 championship team. You were a part of that team. Before we dive into the year itself in terms of some specifics, overall, what was your experience like in junior hockey with the Fighting Saints the year you had in Dubuque?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a year. I mean, I played 2 years junior hockey before, and in Alberta, where I'm from, I lived at home, so that opportunity to go and play in a foreign place for me was pretty cool. Met great billets, still keep in contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're an awesome people. Just the fan base in Dubuque is very strong. I mean, I thought that we interacted, especially that year, with a lot of the fans, and they did their job and cheered hard and supported us no matter what. So yeah, I mean, it was a great opportunity for me. I think that was a stepping stone for me to continue to develop and go into college ready and prepared.
That year starts off so strong for the team. I believe you win your first 9 in a row, and even your first loss isn't even a regulation loss. So you have points in the first 10 games. When you get off to such a quick start like that, what was the feeling? How quickly did you know that, hey, this team might be pretty special?
Yeah, I remember it quite vividly. I think that, I mean, just starting with our coaches all the way down through our leadership group, I think we did a good job in staying focused and not getting too high. And I mean, there was a stretch during that season that we struggled a little bit, and I think that that's just part of hockey. And you know what, I thought our coaches did a really good job in keeping us prepared in practice. The one thing I do remember from Dubuque was our practices were so intense and so hard that, you know what, it was when it came to a game, it almost was easy and that sort of thing. And I think that's partly on the coaches. I think that's partly on the players coming to practice, bringing it every single day. I know I got a ton better in just practices. We had obviously had a lot of really good players on that team that moved on, and even just for really good players in that league. So I think that helped a ton.
When you're going through the course of that season, win after win, point after point, do you have an idea of at any given point that you're on the cusp of something historic?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time I wouldn't say historic. I think that as a group that throughout, I think the first third of the season, I think that we kind of realized like, wow, we got a special group here. We got a lot of really good hockey players and more importantly, really good people. And I think that kind of creates the culture in the dressing room, which is a big key to winning championships. So I mean, there was part of it that was the leadership core keeping us on track and not getting too high, like I said earlier. And you know what? I think our coaches were always pushing us to get better. Even if we're winning games, there's always room to improve. And I think that's important no matter where you are. It's if you're winning games, that's important. But there's always someone striving to beat you or to be better than you. And I think you can take that internally on an individual base, especially now with most of us. I mean, in pro hockey, there's always somebody there striving for your job and an opportunity to play. I think that mindset definitely helped.
When you're going through the season, again, all those wins, you clinch the Cowbell Cup, you clinch the Anderson Cup, you are effectively the team to beat all season long. Was there added pressure playing with a target on your back, or was that something that you guys didn't even really focus on?
I don't think we focused on that. I think as a group, we like I said, kind of we're striving to just continue to be better. Um, I think that the Cowbell Cup and the Anderson Cup are just stepping stones of what we wanted to accomplish by the end of the season, and that was to win the Clark Cup. I think just sticking to the page and sticking to the course was. I mean, it wasn't kind of like halfway through the season we were like, oh well, we want to win the Cowbell and the Anderson. It was when we started, we wanted to win those things. And that was just a stepping stone for us to have an opportunity to win the Clark Cup. So I think early on we set out our goals and expectations as a team and delivered those.
As good as the regular season is, obviously, if you put up 98 points like you did that season and make the playoffs, or if you put up 60 points and you make the playoffs, every team is still in the playoffs. The slate is wiped completely clean. Going into that series in Muskegon, what was the confidence level like, knowing that you had such a good regular season, but knowing that, hey, this is just a 3-game series and the records are now 0-0 with both of these teams?
Definitely. I think, I mean, even when you look at previous Stanley Cup winners, the one year LA won, I think they barely made it into the playoffs and then they ended up winning. Playoffs is a different game. I mean, it's more physical. There's pressure involved, and I think that's kind of where we leaned on our older guys like Shane Sooth and Carly to kind of use their experience in the playoffs. And I think that we kind of had a mojo going throughout the whole regular season that no matter if we got up or down in a game, we knew that we could come back and stick to the course, and we were never out of a game. I mean, even though we had a really successful regular season, all of our games were extremely close, and we knew that was going to be the case in the playoffs. So I think it's partly on experience, partly on just the culture in the dressing room and knowing we were never out of a game and just sticking to the course.
You sweep Muskegon in the first round. You go up 2-0 against Youngstown in the second round, and then Youngstown comes back and they win 2 straight games. Going back for Game 5 to Dubuque, and everyone I've talked to with these interviews, they've mentioned how great that atmosphere was in Game 5 and how they'll never forget it. What do you remember from that Game 5 in Dubuque?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the atmosphere, I think as a player, when you win the first 2 games, you kind of know that I mean, all you need to do is win one more. And when you lose the next 2, it can be draining mentally. I mean, both teams were drained physically. It's a long series. It's an intense series. Knowing that you're going home to your crowd and they're going to bring the noise and the energy just helps you that much more. So that was definitely special. I know that definitely helped us. It was kind of like a reset button for us as players. Kind of went back home, and I mean it was special. I think that was a turning point for us. I mean, obviously sending us to the next series, but just in confidence wise, we knew that our crowd was behind us.
In getting through that series and how difficult it was against Youngstown, did you have a feeling, and not a disrespect to any team you would have faced in the Western Conference, but did you have a feeling of, all right, if we can get through this test, then no matter who we play in the next round, we're going to find a way to beat them?
Yeah, I think so. I think that to kind of summarize our team, I wouldn't say that we were crazy physical team. I mean, we had some guys on our team that could bring the physicality, like AJ Fosston and those sort of guys. But I think Youngstown, their mindset going in was to try to kind of bully us and try to beat us up and make it more of a physical game and take away our scoring ability and our power play ability. So I think that once we felt we could overcome that type of style in playoffs, going in the finals, I think we knew that what it took if no matter what style of hockey was being played. So I think that was a huge confidence booster for us, not only moving on, but knowing that we know how to deal with a team that is trying to physically try to take over.
You guys won a lot of games that were seemingly won in the first period by just outscoring opponents, but that's not to say that you guys were a one-trick pony, because then in the finals, going up against a Fargo team that had a ton of firepower, and I believe in the first 2 games in Dubuque, you held them to 1 total goal. What did it say about the team that they were just able to adapt to any situation and take away the biggest strength of the opposing team?
Yeah, I think that starting from our coaches down to our leadership core, we emphasize defense first. I mean, especially in playoffs, you're not going to score 4 or 5 goals a game, especially in the playoffs. So I think that just the emphasis on defending and the goals will come. We have lots of firepower up front to score. But that way you can create more consistency and give yourself a chance to win each game. I mean, our goaltending was great. Our defense was great, not only our defensemen, but our forwards. And I think that's something Monty kind of engraved in us early on in the season. And yeah, I mean, I think every player individually stepped up in order to help the group collectively. And I think we knew that, they were a high power team, can definitely score a lot of goals, that we need to be sharp defensively.
And you were sharp defensively in those first 2 games. You're up 2-0. You head to Fargo, and in that game 3, I think there's no introduction needed for how that game ended. Everyone will recognize that video clip of Frankie scoring the game-winning goal in overtime. But what maybe is lost sometimes is that you guys were up 2-1 with just about a minute left, and Fargo scores, and suddenly you guys are going back to the locker room, and it's tied. What was the mentality? Did anyone step up and say something in that moment, or was just there a quiet, collected thought that, hey, it happened, we have to bounce back? What was the mood like in the locker room there?
Yeah, I think that's definitely. I mean, it's part of sports. No matter what sport you're playing, it happens, and it is draining. I mean, Brandon Carlson, he was in that situation before, and I mean, didn't work out for him. I think he was a major factor. I mean, I can't remember exactly what happened in that dressing room, but I think it was him and our leadership core that kind of stepped up, and I mean, it just takes one guy to get the ball rolling, and then everyone kind of jumps on. And like I said earlier, I think that throughout the season, no matter if we were down a goal or up a goal, we knew that we had a chance to win the game. And I mean, going into that overtime, we knew we had a chance to do something special. The opportunity was still there. I think at the beginning of the season, if we would have said, you have a chance to win in overtime to win the Clark Cup, I think we all would have taken it. So, yeah, it was degrading that they scored, but I mean, we battled adversity throughout the whole year, and we knew that we could bounce back.
And then you get to that iconic moment with Frankie scoring the overtime winner. You guys are Clark Cup champions. What do you remember? Did you see the puck go in the back of the net? Where were you exactly when that happened? And then what do you remember afterwards?
Yeah. Funny you say that. I actually just watched the video maybe a week or 2 ago. But yeah, I was on that rush with him. It was me, Shane Sooth, and Frankie. I was kind of driving the back door, and Sooth passed it to Frankie, and he kind of drove the net. Now, the angle that I was at, I couldn't tell if the puck went in or not. There was a lot of bodies going everywhere. The goalie was kind of down. But then I saw Frankie throw up his hands, and then it was a matter of me going and trying to chase this guy up the ice to celebrate. So, I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, going earlier back into that clip, I think that part of the culture on our team was defense and all players getting back towards the puck to support each other. And I think it was a great back check by, it might have been Mike Smatula. I forget who it was, but it was a great back check nonetheless, and to kind of turn the puck over, and then we kind of had a 3-on-2 opportunity. And obviously Frankie did well with that. I was more of a decoy going down the back door, but nonetheless, it was exciting.
Well, Matt, thanks for doing this. And to put kind of a bow on everything, when you guys win the Clark Cup, it's in Fargo, but you get to come back and you get to celebrate with the Dubuque fans that gave you a boost all year. What was that celebration like, and what did it mean to your team to bring a championship back to Dubuque?
Yeah, that was, you know what, it was a long trip. I mean, we weren't used to that. We only went out that way once during that season, and kind of made a trip out of it. And we weren't used to playing over there, so that was something that we kind of had to get used to. But nonetheless, it was easier to do so when you're celebrating at the back of the bus with all your teammates that you worked hard during the year for, and you're getting rewarded. So that was special. You know what, the fans in Dubuque, I remember when we got in, it was kind of earlier in the morning, and a lot of fans were lined up in their cars honking horns and getting excited and that sort of thing. So that was really cool. And then, yeah, just kind of the celebration after that. As a team, we kind of had our own spots where we'd like to go to eat and that sort of thing. And I mean, it wasn't mandatory, but a lot of guys, I think, stayed in Dubuque for a week or two after we won, just to kind of share that experience with the fans who helped us throughout that whole season. So it was a special time in my career, and probably one of the best experiences that I've had.
Yeah, incredible team, and obviously finishing it with that storybook ending. You couldn't write it any better. Well, Matt, really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts and your stories from that year, and we look forward to talking to you in a couple nights.
Thanks for having me.